Hello, this is a special presentation of Stage Explorations, and we are here talking about theater and also promoting our production, Heroes of the West.
Okay, so the first question is, when did you first fall in love with theater, and when did you know you had to be a part of the theater world?
I first fell in love with theater, I guess, when I started going to Cal State Long Beach as a theater major. I mean, I did do some plays in high school, but Cal State Long Beach was like my first experience of like really learning and being a part of the theater world, because I always wanted to like act, and I really love film, but that was sort of like my introduction to theater and how I started like getting really into it.
Okay.
I was in high school when I fell in love with theater, I think genuinely, because I had never really had like an extracurric. I had like tried to like do like, there were some sports things and like other, but I didn't know an instrument. I like the best thing I thought I was like, oh, I'm good at shop, so I'll do set stuff. So I started doing set crew and set design work when I was in high school, and then I got into stage management, and then I did a little bit of like everything, kind of like what I did at Cal State too.
Yeah, makes sense.
And yeah, I fell in love with theater in high school, and then I backed away from it for a long time. Not a long time, but like probably like a year or so. I wanted to just do writing. And then Mickey Benson got me back into theater at Cal State Long Beach, and the program was so good that I fell back in love.
Oh, okay. I think mine is similar to you, April. I fell in love with theater at Cal State Long Beach when I like learned what the process really was, and like how it allowed me to really sit with the piece and internalize how it affects me in my daily life, especially like through acting and everything. When I was in high school, I did mostly film stuff, like we were editing and we were writing, screenwriting and stuff like that. And it was cool and everything, and I liked it, but it felt like it was a lot of pressure to make the final presentation great. Whereas in theater, it's never really done, because you always have the opportunity to put the play up again and perfect it in a new way. So I really like that, and I feel like that is what made me fall in love with theater. Okay, you want to read the second one, or?
Sure. Tell me why local and regional theater is still relevant in today's society, and how theater is a unique audience experience.
Well, I personally feel like local and regional theater is still relevant in today's society, because it is usually a lot of folks' first introduction to theater. Like without local and regional theater, a lot of folks and a lot of people from certain communities wouldn't really be exposed to theater. And I feel like that's really important, because it's giving them access to a art form that they wouldn't necessarily have access to.
I just think it's really important for like the community to like get involved and like collaborate with each other, and like be able to have the opportunity to put on their own forms of art. So that's why I like local theater a lot. And then why theater experiences are unique is, to me, is that every performance that a particular audience gets to enjoy, that's its own unique experience that can never really be completely like replicated again. So that's like your own little special like thing that like not everybody else got to do.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I was saying earlier that like sometimes in community or regional or just smaller playhouses, like 90 people might see your show or less. But it's just the fact that you have that opportunity to share that with folks who aren't necessarily theater goers, or like people who are like really like involved in the art world. Community and a low price like places can really give people the opportunity to see a story differently, especially being saturated in so much media. Looking at screens all the time, it's such a different experience when you can have live people in front of you, you know, giving you these ideas, and especially if they're like your hometown folk, they're, you know, people maybe you can relate to.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a unique set of experiences for like a set of individuals that might not necessarily be the same for other folks and like across the country, or in another state, or even just like a few cities over.
Yeah, because us putting this on at the Long Beach Playhouse as part of the collaborative season is different than us, you know, if we were to put it on in the future in a different environment, in like a different, in a different city under different circumstances. It's going to hit the audience differently, and also with time, like stories change over time. So I mean, this story right now that we're telling is very potent at the moment, and I think it always will be, just because of the general treatment of like if we're going deep down into messaging, like the treatment of women like in society, but it will mean different things to different people at different times. And sometimes theater and shows come around right like when you need them to, you know?
All right.
Next one.
When did you fall in love with writing, and why do you love the art of playwriting?
I just wanted to hassle you so badly for messing up, just to irk you, but I'm not.
There's so much. There's always so much hostility.
I just love picking on April. I fell in love with writing when I was younger. Like, I started writing like little children books and like poems for my family, and it was just a way to like kind of create and like have fun, and it was a hobby. I didn't really start taking it seriously until, I would say, last year, because it always was just an outlet for me to be able to express myself. And like, I guess I always took it seriously, but I didn't see it as like a viable option to like really create with and like really produce with until fairly recently, where I was like, okay, this is something I can do. And some of the things about writing that I love so much is because I just really enjoy language. Like, I am a really big fan of like rap music and hip hop and poetry. So like just language and the way, you know, things bounce off the pages is really cool to me. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know like in elementary school, you know, they always occasionally would like ask the kids to write short stories and stuff like that. And like whenever those things happened, like I really enjoyed it and had a good time and didn't really think too much about it, but I knew it was something that I thought was fun. And then this is always like an awkward, weird, but also funny, but not that terrible thing for me to like say. But like in middle school, I like started writing fan fiction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, and it wasn't good at all because I was only like 14. But you know, it's like there's Batman fan fiction. I wrote fan fiction for Holes. I'm trying to think of other ones,
You
but
wrote fan fiction for Holes?
Holes?
You never told
Holes,
me
the,
this.
Oh my
the
gosh.
movie.
Okay,
and
send
the
me that.
book.
Wow,
No,
I
I'm not
really
sending you
wanted
anything. But stuff like that, and then so that was like my practice run, you know, like, and I've written other ones too. Oh, Narnia, I wrote a Narnia one. I'm like remembering as I like talk about it, and like they got better and better, and like as I did that, I also started writing like my own like original stories, and those got. It's just I kept doing it, and as like that progressed, it continued to improve, and I just sort of fell in love with writing and realized it was something that I really enjoyed, and as time passed, just through my own practice, I was able to make it better.
Yeah.
I wrote like fan fictions for like the bands I liked.
Oh.
I can't. I did that for K-pop, so like I can't.
Yeah,
I get it.
No, okay, good. And you're like, oh
You're not
God,
alone.
it's a little cringy. It's more than a little cringy, especially since I'm like 13, 14, writing about like these pop and like punk stars, and I'm like, anyway, you wrote children's books?
Yeah. like about it would be like people in my family, and I would like write books, and because I know how to draw as well, because my dad like illustrates and my aunt illustrates, so they would teach me like different ways to draw. So I like combining the two, the visual and the writing. And then as I gotten older, like I started drawing less because I realized it's just really frustrating when you have an image in your head and you can't quite articulate it on the paper. But I realized I could do that with writing better than I could do it with like visual things. So I was like, okay, then I'll just stick to writing.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't written any plays yet. Yet. But, yeah, I mean, like, I wrote, like, little children's stories when I was younger, kind of, not, like, published or, like big or anything, but, yeah, like, the same type of thing. I entered into, like, the Reflections contest with, like, basically a ripoff of, like, Cinderella. With the different name.
With different names already? That's fine.
But, I really, it was hard to, I mean, writing kind of got hard for me for a really long time because of college, because like I'm a very proficient writer. Like I do love language and I have a large vocabulary and like know how to like structure sentences well, and like I'm just a good writer, but I started to hate it just because of how institutionalized it was, and it made me feel like, you know, you have X amount of papers to write, and you're not doing it for pleasure. You're doing it to get a grade. And so I've always loved writing, but I've actually started writing. I wrote through ULMC, and so we, like, that helped me a lot as far as like sketch writing and being like, oh yeah, I'm funny, ha. So that was good with y'all. And then I've been writing like more poetry lately. I've been writing like a lot of poetry, and that's something that I'm like really like, wow, there are no rules and there's no school to hold me back anymore. So yay.
My turn to read again.
You can write some essays too, you know, for fun. Like,
yeah,
that's
well, that's what I'm thinking is like I have a. Oh, you were being sarcastic. No, I actually.
I write essays for fun too.
Oh, I guess it's just me.
I want to. Are you being sarcastic?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. Good.
I really do.
I couldn't tell. Me too. Yeah, like I'll write like 3-4 page things, and I'm like, oh, like that's actually like a good point.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like people who write really long Facebook posts.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah, me too.
Tell me about the Up and Coming Actors nonprofit and why you needed to be a part of this group.
I needed to be a part of the group because it was a group with my friends that I really believed in supporting. And I feel like that support has been given back to me, and that it is essential to like support one another in this business, because it is so like, you know, the stereotypes of it being cutthroat, like it really can be. Thankfully, I think that the group of people that we've been around and predisposed to because of Cal State Long Beach Theater Department it's given us the opportunity to work with very amazing people who really have the best intentions at heart. So I think I like the need for me to be in the group came from just seeing the artistry and the helpfulness of the people in the group, and just knowing that I wanted to be more involved.
That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Top that.
Oh, I'm just gonna. I'm probably not gonna be like super poetic.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
No, I'm.
Yeah, it's fine.
No, I know. At Cal State Long Beach, you and Ashley, I think it was No Happy Color. That was the first one, right? Or was it People of Color? I don't remember.
I think you might have been the first one in, No Happy Color. That might have been your first one.
Yeah. So you asked me to do that, and you know, you're my best friend. So I want to help my friends create art and help like support the stories that they've written. Also, I love performing, so it'd be strange for me to say no to, you know, a role. So, but I just enjoy like the mindset that like all our fellow like CSLB like theater graduates have, and our energy and all that stuff, and I just have a really like good time like creating art and having a chance to like collaborate and learn with everybody. So that's why I wanted to participate with UCA.
I feel like my need is similar to both of yours. To add on to it, the community aspect of it and like being able to provide opportunities to actors was really the initial thing that brought me to UCA, because I was brought in as a writer, and since I was able to like write work for actors, that it was work that like resembled their experience and what they were going through, and it was really nice to be able to like speak with people and connect, and then write a piece that connects with them, and then allow them to perform it, because it was like giving them authority over their voices. And I feel like sometimes in the theater world, especially if you're a person of color, you don't always have authority over your own voice. You sometimes have to mold who you are and your experiences to the majority, and that's not always beneficial, especially to an actor. So it's kind of fun to provide an actor opportunity to like express and play and navigate politics through the work, and that allows them the opportunity to learn something more about themselves and what it is they want to do with their work. So yeah, I think that like that all of that combined is what brought me to UCA.
I didn't even mention that about the fact that the stories were different stories that, I mean, because again, like Cal State Long Beach, I think does its best to be like inclusive and like on stage and tell the stories of like marginalized voices. But that's what I always saw up and coming actors doing, because I joined on during Mainstream the Dream. Like that was my first interaction with working with y'all. So I took that show because it just was an awesome show. And like, you know, like obviously I had the time, I had the opportunity, and I wanted to work with Ashley. And it was just, doing Mainstream the Dream was such a great experience, and like continuing to be a part of a group that told stories for people on the margins was important to me. And especially like just that being reinforced, because even though I wasn't like involved in queer politicking, I remember you came to me and like we talked about it one day, and we just talked queer theory and things like that. And I think that is the biggest thing with like you, and also with like Ashley, is just like I can come talk to y'all about art and about the different issues that we can help explain with art. Yeah. And that's why UCA is so great.
Oh, your turn.
Oh, tell me about the creation of Heroes of the West.
I know Tahirih and I were in the improv group. Well, all three of us were for upper lower middle class, and then there was that winter show coming up, and I was talking about how I really wanted to do a Western and sort of make fun of like all the really tropey stuff in Western movies, like the stereotypical like showdown, and like how dramatic and sometimes like flamboyant like these scenes can be like portrayed. And so I wanted to like make fun of that. And then I think as we were talking about that, the idea of like me and Tahirih being characters that were sort of like getting in, sort of like flipping all of that over, because we didn't want to do it that way. We just wanted to get the job done, and that's how Daisy and Betsy were created. And so we did the sketch, which was sort of like 3 vignettes that were like placed like throughout the show and sort of had an overarching story. Everyone seemed to really enjoy it, and then Tahirih and I later were like, let's make this a play. Let's stretch that out.
Making a full thing.
Yeah. Do you want to do like your side of the story?
I guess I can add to what you said, because I think that's pretty much it. We also like really, really enjoy writing things that are kind of almost like a spoof or almost like a parody of something, but it's very rarely just a parody of like the story. It's usually just a parody of the structure. So like using bending structure to tell a story or like mocking a certain structure to tell a new story is always really fun to do, and I feel like we do that pretty well in Heroes of the West. Hopefully we could do it better once we do a rewrite, but I feel like we're on the nose of like what it means to have a Western and then what it means when that Western is ruined by two women. But then also progressed and like moving towards something that is good, because our two characters, they just want to do the job right. And the other two just want to uphold narratives that aren't beneficial to the town. So like we're destroying something to make it better. Like we're like, no, let's just do it this way. This is better.
Yeah, and it's the story and the characters growing in it, where like, because they're not like thinking in the back of their heads like, oh, I'm doing this for women. They're just, you know, they're teenagers and they're trying to keep their town safe, and because that's, you know, that's what they've always wanted to do. So yeah, I don't know why I said that.
No, that makes total sense. Every character in this story, I believe, gets a chance to sort of grow and change and learn things about themselves. All except for Toothnose, of course, because he just likes killing and pillaging. Yeah, he's just a terrible. He's just like your typical one-dimensional kooky villain.
That can segue, if you want to, into the next question.
Yes. What is the main story arc of the Heroes of the West?
The main story arc. I think, okay, I'm going to try to describe it the best way. I feel like the main story arc is Betsy and Daisy, the two main characters, and Hank clashing throughout the play about Hank trying to maintain status quo and Betsy and Daisy disrupting status quo. And that is like the entire drive of the entire story, in my opinion. Yeah.
And the status quo being Hank continuing to let Toothnose, the villain, get away with things so that he can portray the imagery of heroism without doing anything.
Yeah.
Which is so funny to me, because it's like, there's so many other people. There's the baby snatcher. There's Needle and Dread. there's you know, Roadkill. Like there are people like actively going out there and making problems in the town, and yet they don't even get addressed by the town hero. And it's so interesting, and I think that's like kind of like a telling thing too, of like seeing that portray where like the people that are supposed to be protecting you aren't, and yet
they still getting praise.
Yeah, they're still getting praise, and to maintain the status quo is to like not question like the way things are.
Yeah.
And I think that's like obviously bigger symbolism, especially since he is an authority figure, and how they are disrupting how like this person who has power goes about business and protecting people.
Yeah.
I think another important element to this story, and I know Tahirih and I wrote a similar story that touched on like the same thing, but just like when you have a hero that you really, really look up to, like Betsy and Daisy, like really admire Hank, and to find out that your hero isn't what you thought they were can be like a really earth-shattering moment. So like just the whole idea of like this, you know, really looking up to someone and then realizing that what you thought you knew isn't what the actual picture was. Yeah. So that was just my little.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I was gonna touch on the creation part real quick. Just going back. just shouting out to like all the people also that have helped to make this because it is a workshop production. And how like the play written with like these folks in mind, and like the people who have helped to like shape kind of like the way we do comedy as a group. It's been really helpful to have like, obviously y'all are the creators and we all acknowledge that, and we're like, oh my gosh, like, because honestly like this play, like I know where y'all are doing rewrites and you want to continuously make it better and get it to like that grandstand place, but like just reading the play first out that first night with everybody, like everyone was like, this is a done deal. Like this is like, it feels and reads like a professional production, whatever that means. As far as just like your story structure is so solid, that's another thing that like really helps with the storytelling, is that it's so accessible to people. And I think we've all done a good job of putting that together. So
I think we have such a great group. Like like all the actors in the show have done a really good job of like making each character their own, and either Harry and Christian always like managed to play out what Tahirih and I wrote, like the way that we like imagined it. And then Flo and Alyssa and Gabby and everyone else have also done a really great job of just sort of surprising us and like adding something like funny that like another funnier layer or element that we weren't thinking of. So and everyone's been able to do like both of those things. But it's just like we have a really great group of people, and I love the way that they put life into characters.
And their sense of humor and how like it's altered to the Western time, because like
they step into it so well.
Like they're like fearless when it goes into it. It's just like, okay, I'm going to be this character, because like when we envisioned like Mary, she was like part of like the main characters, but she wasn't that big. But like Moriah stepping into that presence and like giving her like an entire trope and like playing that out is like very helpful. And for us, because when we rewrite, now we have like people who embodied the character in a new way, and we have a trope to go off of like, okay, what are these characters dealing with, and how can we portray them differently?
Right.
Number 6?
7.
Tell me about the main characters and their story arcs.
Okay. I mean, I can do my character. Daisy is just a farm girl. She's 14 3/4. She has a sister who's clearly adopted, who's about the same age as her, and they work on the farm. Their mom is very hardworking and does a lot of work. Their dad just sort of supervises, I suppose, and wants us to, but that's not the life that Daisy really wants. She really looks up to Hank the hunter, and she sees all these amazing adventures, and she really, really wishes and wants to participate in those types of things. She wants to be part of the action alongside her hero. That's what she wants. And she's able to propose that to Hank, but he doesn't necessarily like agree to that, and we just do his chores. So it's sort of the same thing. But that's like part of the struggle. She wants to be part of the action.
And Betsy's is very similar, except I feel like Betsy is just a big fish in a small pond. Like she outgrew her environment and is ready to do something bigger with her life. And the idea of being a hero like Hank is the thing that excites her, probably more so than being around Hank. I feel like Daisy is excited about being in his presence, whereas Betsy wants to be the hero he is as well. I guess we have to talk about the other characters too.
I mean, I guess we could talk about Hank and Toothnose, because I feel like them and Betsy and Daisy are sort of like the 4 central characters. Hank is sort of the typical like macho Western hero that you would see like in Clint Eastwood movies and stuff like that, or even like when you're watching comedy, and then they do like a little Western segment, and like just sort of like the image, like the thought of like what is the essence of like a Western cowboy hero who is always there to save the day and help the town, but he doesn't really ever really get the job done like he's supposed to.
Mm-hmm. And Toothnose is just your campy villain from a Western flick. More so like the idea of like what a Western is, not exactly what like a Western film is, but like if you think of stereotypical Western, he would be the villain that you would see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You want to run through all the other characters?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can touch on. I mean, Mary's important because Mary is the daughter of the mayor. She's kind of bureaucratic in the town, and she is somebody who kind of sees Hank, but also sees through his guise very much so, I think, especially as the play goes on. But she starts off as kind of like the damsel in distress character, and then we see her to evolve into this more like sure of herself woman, I think, because she's in the presence of Daisy and Betsy, and those are the two people that kind of give her the drive to stand up for herself. And then her father is the Mayor Mayerson, who, he's in charge of the town. He's kind of doing his own thing. He's hoping that Hank can keep things under control, but alleviates some of the burden of power from him onto the women wranglers.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of it in his voice. And then there's the townsfolk that make it like the whole world and add to the
story.
Yeah, the story, but I wanted to add an adjective. It's not coming. It's all good.
Oh,
Or
okay.
the mother and father characters as well, which play a role to show kind of like where Daisy and Betsy come from, and like how you described them, like how their home life kind of like
What's
builds them
expected
as
of them
people.
and everything. Yeah.
Is there an underlying message to Heroes of the West?
Well, I guess the message. I'm trying to like get ready for like an articulate explanation, but I guess for me, the underlying message, or like some of the things I guess I was feeling when I wrote this, and what I want people to take away from this, is that women are just as capable of doing everything that a man can do, and there isn't really any reason to treat either side as if they are unequal to each other.
Yeah.
We got the power, all of us.
Yeah.
It's really a story about women empowerment.
I agree. I also believe that it's a story about how being authentic sometimes there's backlash to being authentic, but you have to be greater than the consequences that you're going to face, because our two characters aren't necessarily trying to disrupt the narrative. We're just trying to be the people we believe we are, and it is disrupting the narrative.
But yeah, that speaks to so much though, right? Because like being who you are, especially in this day and age, is disrupting a lot of narratives.
Yeah.
Like folks who want to keep things status quo and keep things the same as they've always been, neglect to see like the rising power of people in different identities. And so I think that story touches on that a lot, is that, again, like what is expected of them. They're expected to milk cows for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And they're expected to just be these like homebody, or just like basic anything that is feminine and is useful. You got to be feminine and you got to be productive. And you your two characters both just say no. With quite like ease in the fact that you both are supporting each other.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if either of you would have, I'm not sure if Daisy would have left the farm
On her
if
own.
it weren't for Betsy. I think Betsy might have, but I'm not sure if Daisy would have left the farm. So that is also like a powerful message of like, you two really hold each other up and ensure each other that like, no, what we're doing is right. Like, even though everyone else is like uncertain that we can, like, and like what we are doing is right, no matter what Hank says. Because like people like Hank can really get people down.
Yeah.
And I think like everyone kind of knows someone like Hank. So it's like, it's important to be like, that is what we want to get away from as a society.
And it's kind of fun to play with too, because like nothing Hank says beats common sense. And I feel like our characters are like very much like the sane people in a crazy world. So we're like, no, this is common sense. Like we got the job done. We captured the villain. So it's done. And the town slowly, you know, gets on our side because it's common sense. It's like, this is the thing that is going to progress us. So why will we continue to do the thing that we've been doing?
So beautiful.
It just keeps, like, the overall, like, thought of that and, like, the narrative of that just makes me think of, like, the world right now so much. Just, like, the people who are advocating for change, it feels like they're the same people in a crazy world. And in order to get things done, you have to convince people that you are sane.
Yeah.
It's not even that, like, it's like, well, I'm right or this is right. Like, it's like people are going to have their own ideas of, like, right and wrong. But it's just like what you were saying. It's like, it's common sense that you just, this is how things work.
Yeah.
You want that one?
Are we on 9? Okay. What do you want the audience to get out of the Heroes of the West?
I want them to be able to laugh. I want them to, you know, take away some of like the things that we mentioned for the underlying message, and I just want them to be open to like the structure that we built and are like trying to move towards as far as like what a Western is and what it could be.
I also want people to laugh. I think I'd be really sad if they didn't find any of our quirky jokes hilarious. I don't know if this is necessarily. This is one of. Hearing everyone talk, I just started thinking about a few things. So I guess this sort of answers the question, but maybe not really. But I guess in addition, because I was talking about like how. Like women and men should be treated equal, and women are just as capable of doing what men can do. And the conversations we were having also started to make me think about like some of the disruption of the status quo that like Daisy and Betsy were doing is just sort of just two women sort of displaying like masculine tendencies and just sort of like our like society's like knee-jerk reaction that has been, I feel like to think it's been improving, but there's some people out there that sort of like to think that there's something wrong with that, and then vice versa, to have like a femininity and like a men displaying feministic characteristics. And I don't know, I just started thinking about like how, I think it's really important what you said earlier for us to be like our authentic, like true selves, like do what makes you feel happy and comfortable, you know, just be yourself. Yeah. Let's all love each other.
I think that's something that is something that you all wrote very well too, and like what I was saying like earlier, like how it's just so accessible for people. So I think and I hope that the audience will walk away laughing. I don't think there's gonna be one person who won't. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's like that would be
something.
very weird if someone just sat there the whole time and was just like.
This is not a Western.
Like I get critics, but like y'all, like there's a couple lines in there that it's like anyone would laugh at that. Anyone would laugh at that.
With the cast we have, like they're bound to laugh.
Yeah, but laughing, but also like y'all have made it accessible to get that message. That the message is the strength, no matter what your gender. And yeah, I think that's good that you bring up that like the masculine tendencies in them and then the feminine tendencies in some of the male characters, and like none of the disruption of gender is made to be played as like a joke. It's more just like people are going to do whatever they're going to do, and in 2018 you think it wouldn't be such a big deal. But yeah.
The last one. I can just read the last one since it's in my hand.
That's the order.
Why must the Southern California community come to see the Heroes of the West production?
Ooh, why? Why must they?
I can talk first so that y'all can finish.
Oh. No, you can go.
Okay. I'm like, they must come see our show because we really want them to. Okay. They must come see it because it's an affordable opportunity to have a good time and support local artists and yeah.
That's good stuff.
Oh, yeah. I think the Southern California community must see our show because I think it's very fun and entertaining and hilarious. I think we have a very great cast and group of people working behind the scenes too that have put together this really fun and story, and also just because it's not only really fun but at the same time it's parodying the Western genre and sort of just poking fun at like the gender dynamics that we've had in the past, but at the same time still haven't really gotten over even today.
Yeah. I feel like the Southern California community must see Heroes of the West because it's an opportunity to like you guys said, to like play and join the conversation and be able to see some ways in which, all of our entire group kind of handles theater in this specific way and how we utilize improv and how that influence pushed us to develop this play the way we did.
It's a rip-roaring good time. Okay. Are we ready to wrap this?
Yes.
Okay. From the Heroes of the West team and Stage Explorations, mark your calendar for Heroes of the West production, and thanks for watching. See you at the theater.